that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Ready for you to tell you all about what's been going on in energy. That today is today being the day that we're recording this is the 12th of January, and we work a week at a time. So we're starting on the 5th of January, which was a week ago today. And there's been a lot going on. Every day I go to the internet and I find the news on climate change and energy and so forth. And I put it at my blog, geoharvey.com. And you can go to geoharvey.com, GEOHARVEY. And if you look at the calendar that's there, you can click on a date. We're starting on the 5th of January, so you would find these first few stories we're talking about on that date. And I guess we should just get straight into it. We've got it.
Well, as I've mentioned before on the show, we don't have time to go into depth on these items.
Absolutely.
And some of them are really worth going into depth on.
Right.
So,
yep.
Go to your blog,
go to the internet.
Click on a day and click on.
Yeah, if you want to read it. This first one from Science Daily, I think a lot of people are going to want to read. We have a picture on this. I don't know how relevant the picture is, but it's a picture of an iceberg. There's a ship in the background there, way in the background.
Yeah,
by golly, didn't notice that when I put this up.
It looks like a settlement of some sort on the left.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this first one is from Science Daily.
Potential instability in Atlantic Ocean water circulation system. Whoa!
Whoa, yeah. One of the world's largest ocean circulation systems may not be as stable as believed, according to a study in the journal Science Advances. In fact, the changes in the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, that's a real term, by the way, the same deep water ocean current featured in the movie The Day After Tomorrow could occur quite abruptly.
Well, abruptly means in the next few centuries. So don't get worried about
it. Won't happen. They're not saying it'll happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it'll happen at all. I'm not saying it won't happen tomorrow. I'm just telling you what they said.
Well, let's just bring people up to date. What is this AMOC that they're talking about?
Well, they have the ocean has these currents that run at the top of the ocean. The best one known is
the
Gulf Stream,
yeah.
And then the Japan Current is another one.
And it goes up on the top.
Yep.
It comes back in the bottom.
In the bottom, and we've got other currents too. The Labrador Current is well known, but these currents exist at the top level. They exist at the floor of the ocean, and they exist in the middle. They go in different directions.
And they've been doing a good job of air conditioning.
They do an excellent job of keeping Northern Europe warm.
Yeah.
Did you know that the UK is warm? You didn't, did you?
well,
it is.
If it wasn't for this current, this climate would be like Labrador.
Yeah, or Alaska.
Or Alaska, yeah.
Yeah. So the people in the UK, France, Germany, you name it. I mean, if you think about it, sunny Italy, okay? Yeah. Rome is at the same latitude as New York City.
Yeah.
So
Rome's a little bit warmer.
Rome is a little bit warmer. Madrid is at, as I recall, the same latitude as Washington, D.C., maybe a little bit farther north. Mm-hmm. And we in Vermont, in southern Vermont, where this is being recorded, we're farther north than, we're like at the latitude of Denmark, but Denmark is a whole lot warmer in the winter than Vermont is, or at least than Vermont has been traditionally. So anyway.
Well, in Ireland, up until very recently, they haven't even had central heat.
Yeah, they didn't have central heat in the
They
UK
didn't need
when
it.
I was
And
when
they
I
didn't
was
have
a
it in
kid.
the UK.
They didn't have it in the UK.
On the cold days, everybody got in the living room and huddled around the wood stove.
Absolutely. Only it wasn't a wood stove. It was
The
a
coal
chimney.
stove.
It was a fireplace with coal in it usually.
Yeah, yeah.
And the rosy red cheeks of the little children were rosy red because they played in a playroom that was 40 degrees. You know, okay, life is a little different. Well,
I always thought it was radiation from the stove.
okay, should we go on? Get away from that
Did you read
depressing
that one?
topic? Did I? Day After Tomorrow, yeah. And by the way, for those of you who didn't see The Day After Tomorrow, they're saying the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation is the same water current as in The Day After Tomorrow that gets disrupted.
Yeah.
In The Day After Tomorrow, the change comes about in hours.
Yeah.
We're talking about a change that happens
In
over
centuries.
the course of centuries. And what they were doing in The Day After Tomorrow was they were reconciling a few things that people really don't know very well. And they were reconciling things that were real in science. For example, we know that mastodons in Alaska were deep frozen, which would require temperatures that I've read would have to be below 100 below zero Fahrenheit, from temperatures that were in the 50s because they were deep frozen with daisies in their mouths. They were grazing on the plants that were there at the time. And this was accompanied in some places by very high winds that would pick animals the size of mastodons up and toss them violently enough to pull them apart, basically. And so frozen mastodon meat has been in the permafrost for tens of thousands of years. And that all is
That's real.
That's real, and it's melting, and it's. But they were saying, okay, we know that there were atmospheric changes that happened in Alaska. Maybe they could happen in New York. What would happen if they did? And then they, did some very serious imagination and came up with something that probably is not possible, but interesting.
I guess it made a good scary movie.
Made a scary movie. It was like movies about things that never happen, like the China syndrome and stuff like that. We never have meltdowns. It reminds me of that song, "We never eat cookies because cookies have..." We never eat fruitcake because fruitcake has rum. And one little
I
bite.
don't know that one.
One little bite puts a man on the bum.
Oh boy!
Well, can you imagine the awful disgrace of a bum in the gutter with crumbs on his face? Sorry about that, folks. Has nothing to do with energy, and probably wasn't even in good taste.
Now let's cook the book.
Let's get on. Next item is from the Sydney Morning Herald.
No cooking the books.
No cooking the books.
New study confirms global warming hiatus didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
We've been hearing about
We've been hearing about it. Evidence the Earth experienced a slowdown in global warming over the past couple of decades has been further eroded with a new U.S. study confirming climate change continues unabated. NOAA, that is NOAA, what is that? That's the National Oceanic and Aeronautic Administration.
Something like that. Yeah,
Something like that.
I think you got it.
Found the oceans had warmed at a rate of 0.2 degrees per decade, and I'm pretty sure that's Celsius, since 2000, or nearly twice the previous estimate. So
what we've got an error in measurement caused by the difference between measuring from ships and measuring from buoys.
Yeah.
Which they've corrected by looking at it from the satellite.
Yep.
And
which is why Donald Trump doesn't want NASA to be involved in climate change, because he wants to have everybody not know.
You got it. You took the words right out of my mouth. Well, let's
keep going.
I guess we're going to go.
We should do that, yeah. Clean Technica.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a very good one.
This is a good one.
The Tesla Gigafactory is now pumping out battery cells. It's in operation.
Absolutely. This is quick work. Tesla has begun mass production of battery cells at the Gigafactory. The company said the cost of battery cells will significantly decline due to a number of inherent optimizations and economies of scale. These will enhance yield, lowering the capital investment per watt hour of production. The Gigafactory is 35% complete. The Gigafactory is going to be the largest building on Earth.
It will be the largest building. This is huge.
Yeah.
This is 2 million square feet.
Yeah.
We got a fairly large factory up on Putney Road.
Okay.
The Full Flex. There's the big field in front. They used to play Frisbee there.
Yes.
That's Full Flex.
Okay.
That's a pretty good sized factory.
It's a good sized factory.
This place is probably about 20 times the size of that factory.
You know,
you need a vehicle to get around on the inside of it.
Yeah, which is not going to be powered by gasoline, by the way.
No.
You don't want gasoline-powered vehicles inside factories.
There's a quick takeaway here. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy through increasingly affordable electric vehicles, in addition to renewable energy generation and storage. At the heart of these products are batteries.
Batteries.
And he's doing it.
He's doing it.
He's accomplishing
and
what,
you know,
what he's
it's
saying.
funny because I look at this and I say, is a lithium-ion battery really the way to go? And I can't answer the question.
Well,
I don't know.
As of today, yes.
Yeah, probably.
But as of 10 years from now, I would say unlikely.
I don't know. I mean, when I bought those batteries that I bought, they were not lithium-ion. They were salt water. Mm-hmm. And I had reasons for doing that, which don't necessarily mean that somebody else should buy saltwater batteries instead of lithium-ion batteries.
I think lithium-ion is still going to be very useful for cars.
There are a lot of things that it will be. The batteries that I got could not be used in a car.
No, they're a little bit too big.
Well, they're too big, and I'm not so sure that you can do the acceleration, deceleration without sloshing the chemicals around inside. You know, they're very concerned about whether these batteries get tipped. And
so there's going to be several different types of batteries.
And
it's going to be a niche.
It's
going to be niches in the market.
Flow batteries,
I put my money on flow batteries.
Oh yeah,
long-term
absolutely, absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah,
we've talked about flow batteries before.
A bunch of
times. We're not going to talk about them now.
Right.
It is. They are cool.
Okay.
Well, we got a picture coming up.
We do, and this is from a publication called The Lens. And that picture.
I couldn't get. I got it, but it was a bad link. My computer wouldn't download it. It said it's dangerous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. You're. Well, I can tell you what it says.
I went around the back door. And
you did.
But,
okay. So you have a title?
I think I do. Scientists say Louisiana's latest projections for coastal flooding are grim but realistic. And there's a picture of Louisiana's coastal.
Yeah, coast of Louisiana. This is what is going to be disappearing. But unfortunately, people live in places like that, and people are going to have to move.
Well,
many Louisianans may well have been shocked by the grimmer forecasts in the latest edition of the state's 50-year plan to protect its coast. There is no longer any hope that more land can be built than the Gulf takes each year. Even if the plan works perfectly, the state could lose another 28,000 square miles of its land along the coast.
And that's happening right now.
That's happening.
This isn't a projection.
That is a body of land that they are saying will disappear, and it is the size of the state of Delaware, a little bit bigger, in fact.
Well, the article said that 26,000 homes and other buildings may have to be elevated, flood-proofed, or bought out.
And, you know...
that's the people that are living there now.
There's a combination of two things going on here. We should really make this clear. This is not just climate change. This is a combination of the sea level rising because of climate change and the land falling.
Is the land diminishing?
The land is going down. And the reason for that is because this land has been maintained, its elevation has above sea level has been maintained by silt coming down from the Mississippi River.
Which isn't happening anymore.
But it isn't happening the way it used to.
Yeah.
And the Mississippi River, I remember many years ago I got upset because I could see that the Mississippi River could reroute to Morgan City. I figured Morgan City. And
I'm not that familiar with the
well,
geography.
if it did this, it would do it north of Louisiana, of New Orleans. And what it would mean is that the Mississippi, instead of going down the Mississippi to the Gulf, would go down the Mississippi and then up the Red River of the South about 2 or 3 miles, and then down a river called the Atchafalaya. And the Atchafalaya is probably already been an outlet for the Mississippi River, but in the past, but it got clogged with fallen timbers. Mm-hmm. And during the 19th century, people decided that it would be very useful to be able to use that river for transportation. And so they got all this clog of old wood out of the river. When they did that, the river started to flow. And as it started to flow, it started to get deeper and deeper, and the flow through that river started getting much, much easier. And by golly, the next thing you know, the Mississippi River is starting to flow down that river. So the Army Corps of Engineers.
You can't fool Mother Nature.
No, you can't fool Mother Nature. The Army Corps of Engineers built a dam on the Red River, where the Red River met the Atchafalaya, so that the Mississippi would not go down. And I remember along about 1982, they got really upset because they knew a limited amount of time to fix that dam because the river had started to go under it.
Under the dam.
Under the dam.
Boy. You can't fool Mother Nature.
You can't fool Mother Nature. Donald Trump would like you to believe that you can fool Mother Nature. Anyway, that was on Friday, January 6th, and our next item from the Environmental Defense Fund is also on January 6th.
This is a very interesting one too. With a record of 1.4 trillion in sustainability assets. These are wealthy asset holders.
Yes.
Investors are bailing on fossil fuels.
Wow. As the president-elect puts together an administration focused on fossil fuels, and don't believe for a minute that he isn't doing exactly that, which is why he nominated Rex Tillerson to be Secretary of State, the investment community is moving full speed in the opposite direction. Instead putting their bets on emissions reductions and support for clean energy. Investors holding trillions of dollars in assets, dropping fossil fuels in favor of renewables. And you know what? This isn't putting their bets on emissions reductions and in support of clean energy.
It's not because they're good guys.
No, this is because we've got to a point where the tipping point has been reached. It is a better bet that we're going to be moving away from fossil fuels, a better economic investment bet that we're moving away from fossil fuels than that we are moving toward.
I got a couple of sentences here to say exactly that.
Okay.
Why is there so much momentum in the sector now?
Why?
The price of renewables is right. Duh.
Duh.
Prices are dropping, making renewables not only competitive, but ushering in an era of undercutting fossil sources even without subsidies.
Even without subsidies. And one of the funny things about this is, I've been giving this thought, and we've been getting projections. We talked about one last week, I think it was, where the head of research and development from Engie, which used to be GDF Suez, said, 5 years from now, in order for oil to be competitive, its price is going to have to be something like $10 a barrel.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And we just got news that in order for the price to be competitive and keep the companies afloat, the oil that we are importing in the United States from the Canadian tar sands is going to have to be $80 a barrel. Guess what? Bad combination for the investor.
Never the twain shall meet.
Never the twain shall meet. Tom and I are, just for anybody who's interested, not investor advisors. We're not qualified to do that. But
besides that, we don't have any money.
But if you've been following this show, you would be able to guess from what we've said that the oil industry is a bad investment and the coal industry is practically dead. Okay.
The coal industry is practically dead. Well, we got another industry that's practically dead too.
What's that?
We got a picture of it.
A picture of it. Oh, yes. This is from Saturday, January 7th, and this picture is from the Financial Post.
And the title of the picture is "The Sun Setting on Canadian Crude."
Oh.
And that's the same thing as the headline.
Yeah.
The firm that brought foreign money to the oil sands sees sun setting on Canadian crude. So this picture is a metaphor.
Yep. This is from Financial Post, January 7th. Grafton Asset Management Incorporated, which had brought foreign investment to Canada's oil and gas industry, is looking to add alternative energy to its portfolio for the first time as it positions itself for the decline of fossil fuels. The company's CEO, this is the CEO of a company that is invested heavily in oil, worries about the industry's future, saying, quote, "I do look at it as a sun-setting business," end quote.
Well, that's what I mean by a metaphor.
There you go. There's the metaphor.
Again.
Put it up again. Well, there you go.
It's a nice picture.
Nice picture. The sun is setting on the oil. You know, if you, by the way, if you go to Google Earth, you can actually see those rigs from the sky.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Sure.
I went and I looked at the Roscoe Wind Farm, and the wind turbines. You can see the individual wind turbines, and you can see that they are on the same fields as oil pumps that clearly don't work anymore because they've been disassembled.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to what you say. I looked at what's that town south of Bennington?
Rutland?
South of Bennington, on the Canadian.
South of Bennington.
Yeah.
Pownell.
Pownell, and Pownell is going big time for renewables. I mean, you know, they got a lot going on. They got hydro, they got solar.
And this is the town that a year ago, last August,
Bingo.
Yeah, prevented
Finish the story.
the people there had, somebody came in from outside the community, I think, and scared everybody about the possibility of putting in solar panels. They had a 150 kilowatt solar array that was being put in to help the fire department pump water. And people were coming in and saying, this is going to destroy our groundwater.
The cells are going to leak chemicals into the soil.
And what happened after that was 4 out of the 5 people on the committee that was doing this resigned within 3 days of the time that these 30 or some odd people came in and took over their meeting and forced them to vote against the whole thing. And
they've really changed what's going on in Pownell. And what I was going to say is you can see the photovoltaic panels
all
on
over the
Google
place.
Earth.
Yeah.
It's the old racetrack.
But the thing is, those solar panels were not put in because of protection for the groundwater. And what happened? The next thing you know, they start finding chemicals in the groundwater that came from a local chemical plant.
Which had nothing to do with
Had nothing to do with solar.
Well,
And
yes,
people
they
were
do have a big
discovering
problem there.
people were discovering that their own individual wells were contaminated by things that could give them cancer.
Yeah, there was companies making Teflon.
Teflon
Products.
Right.
And this is what is poisoning the water.
It was a product that was used in the manufacture of Teflon. And fortunately for the local people, it is possible for a municipal government-sized water facility to filter this stuff out. It's not really very practical to do it with a home well, though. But now they're getting a little bit more involved in renewable power. I think they've recognized that the
Pownell is not more than a little bit involved. I mean, there's a lot of private guys doing it.
Yeah.
They're taking, one of the big things they're doing is they're taking a lot of old mills.
Yeah.
And they're generating power there.
Yep.
And
And my suspicion is that if somebody came in and said, we want to put up wind turbines, which would attract back that same crew that told them not to put in solar, that crew might just get laughed out of town because they've been shown to be fake.
Oh yeah,
Which is why I'm not mentioning the name.
I wouldn't expect to see wind turbines in Pownell
Not in
because I
Pownell,
don't
no.
think there's any terrain that's suitable.
Yeah, there probably isn't. But anyway, we should continue going
let's
on.
move
Our
on
next
here.
item is from the Tyler Morning Telegraph.
One
Next item is from the Tyler Morning Telegraph.
That's Tyler, Texas, isn't it?
Tyler, Texas.
The Energy Department study, there is an Energy Department study, quote,
Yep.
U.S. electric power grid in imminent danger from cyber attack.
Wow. The DOE, this is the Department of Energy, says that the U.S. electricity system, quote, faces imminent danger, end quote, from cyber attacks and warned a widespread power outage could be caused by a cyber attack, undermining, quote, critical defense infrastructure, end quote, as well as much of the economic and health of its people. Grid operators say they're already on top of the problem. Do you believe grid operators? No, I don't.
They are doing something.
They are working on it.
They are working.
They are, but they've got more reasons to work on this than just cyber attack.
Oh yeah,
They've got
solar coronal emissions for one.
Yep, that's one. Terrorists who could be attacking physically are another, and
and stupid hunters in a fall who are shooting insulators.
right.
One insulator in the right place could take the whole grid down.
It's happened already. Not
Yeah.
necessarily from a hunter, but I remember, well, that northeastern loss of the grid came because it was a hot day and the heat made the copper and so forth and the wires stretch and they sagged a little bit and a wire hit a tree and killed the tree but also knocked the grid down and
there was another incident where some guy in the system operator's office was showing off to his kid or something like that. One of them pushed the wrong button. Bingo. Out.
I've seen that kind of thing. I have actually seen that kind of thing happen.
Have you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, a new $80,000 machine is put up in a factory. I used to work in a factory where this happened, and the head of the factory, who is a chemical engineer, walks in and he looks at the controls and he says, and he bought the machine. He looks at the controls and he says, "What does that button do?" Big red button. Pushes the button, the thing goes down.
By the way, there's a little backstory here.
Yeah.
People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. The United States government has been doing stuff like this worldwide for years. You ever hear of the thing called Stuxnet?
Yes, I've heard of it.
We destroyed the Iranian nuclear.
Well,
power.
they blame the Israelis.
Well, I think the Israelis and the U.S. were holding hands on that.
They were cahooting?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
But anyhow, we play these games too.
Yes. Okay, we are up to an article, still January 7th, from the Albany Times-Union, and this is one of the more important articles, probably of the year.
This is a very good one. Very
Yep.
good one. Deal made, and we'll hit this again today.
Yeah.
Deal made to shut down Indian Point Power Plant.
The aging Indian Point nuclear power plant just north of New York City would close within 4 years under a deal made with Governor Andrew Cuomo. The plant owner, Energy Corp, would shut down both reactors at the Westchester County facility by April of 2021, according to a source familiar with the deal's details. And by the way, this deal has been confirmed.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And we can talk later also about how it's going to be replaced.
Well, the bottom line here is this should have never been built.
Yeah.
There's more than 17 million people live within a 50-mile radius.
How do you evacuate? I mean,
You can't. There's no way you'd get...
There's only about 2 blocks of the southern tip of Staten Island that isn't within 50 miles of this plant.
And you got nearby Connecticut and you got nearby New
Jersey. Yeah. So...
I remember when I was a kid, Indian Point was a park.
Yes.
They had a magnificent swimming pool. It's the size of a football field.
There you go.
Gone.
Gone. That football field-sized swimming pool was removed, and for what? A nuclear reactor or two.
Wow.
Wow, what a deal. What a bad deal. Okay, we should keep going. Our next item is from Clean Technica, and I have to tell you, this is a bit of amusement for me.
Well, I'm a train buff, so I love this kind of stuff.
Okay.
All Dutch trains now run 100% on wind power.
Yeah.
By the way, this is an interesting site if you want to visit it.
Which?
This site.
The wind power, the train site?
The train site.
Okay.
Go to George and point this out. It starts out with the president of the railway system
Yeah.
lashing himself or being lashed to an old-fashioned Dutch windmill and being hauled up in the air. I mean,
Yeah.
This guy's my age.
Yeah. This is
And he gets up there in the top and he's talking. He's upside down.
This is from Clean Technica, and it is dated Sunday, January 8th. And let me read the little blurb here. Dutch railway companies teamed up with energy company Eneco in 2015 to cut train ride emissions. Originally, 2018 was set as a target for changing to 100% renewable power sources. The 100% transition was completed 1 year ahead of schedule, however, and all Dutch trains are now powered by wind energy. When they had that original deal made, I mentioned it online in a kind of a conversation that I was having with some people at some site, because a person was being critical of wind power and said, you can't use this for anything. And I said, well, the Dutch are going to use it for their railroads. And he said, how could you be so stupid as to rely on wind power? The wind isn't always blowing. Their trains aren't going to run. And you know, I'm sitting there thinking to myself,
They got sails on top of the locomotive.
how stupid can you be to believe that the Dutch are going to do this without examining the engineering problems that are involved? And they've got those problems licked.
Well, this is not an engineering problem. It's a bookkeeping problem.
It's more a bookkeeping problem.
They're buying this power from the Netherlands, from Belgium, from Finland,
and from Norway.
And it doesn't say that in the article.
Not yet, but they are laying in a cable from the Netherlands to Norway.
Well, Norway's got a lot of hydro.
Norway has a lot of hydro, but they're dealing for wind power from Norway. That's part of the deal.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, the Norwegians, they don't care whether they use their own hydropower or their own wind power. It's all the same to them.
And they got oil too.
And they do, but they're moving away from that. Scotland has oil, and they're moving away from that.
Away from that too.
And the countries in the Middle East have got oil, and they're moving away from that.
That's true.
You know, and the United
Dubai
States
just got one of the lowest bids for solar we've seen.
And the
Less than 2 cents.
United States has hit peak oil in 1970, and we've got a president of the United States who says he's going to make sure that we stay on oil
and coal.
And coal. He wants to resurrect coal, but he can't resurrect coal and provide for oil at the same time. So, you know, basically elected by a party that says that it doesn't want to have subsidies, he's going to have to subsidize somebody in order to get what he wants. I'm very cynical about it. Well, I'm not even sure that Donald Trump is going to survive 4 years. I was looking at him this morning in the news, and I came to the conclusion that maybe he's going to, when he finds out what being president of the United States entails, he may decide he's just going to resign.
Oh my God. And then we got Pence.
And then we have Pence. You know, but Pence won't resign. He'll try to ride it out.
Oh boy. Well, we got a nice picture coming up here.
We do here, and this is a neat picture. This is a picture. This is from an organization called the New Times, and this is a picture from Rwanda, and all those brightly colored things all over the place. Those are people.
They sure are. I'll read the headline and
Go ahead.
read the article because it's interesting what they're doing there.
It is.
Rwanda to reach milestone of 100,000 green jobs this year.
How do you like that?
Now, I don't know how to put that in reference to Rwanda. Well, it would seem to me that 100,000 jobs is a lot.
Well, yeah, and you can see that half of them are in this picture. Rwanda's Green Fund expects to reach a milestone of creating 100,000 green jobs this year, according to its program manager. He told Sunday Times that in the next 12 months, Rwanda's Green Fund, a groundbreaking environmental and climate change investment fund, is particularly looking forward to boosting Rwanda's climate resilience. Now, that picture is interesting because they're doing something there that relates to climate resilience. And the people up on the hillside are building
Building terraces.
terraces,
They're gonna
and
grow rice.
they're going to plant trees.
Are they going to plant
in
trees
addition
here?
to this, yes, they're planting trees. I
You
don't.
don't need terraces for trees, though.
They're building the terraces for erosion.
likely
I
rice.
believe it could be rice.
Well,
but
it helps
whatever it's
erosion,
for,
no question about
yeah,
it.
whatever it's for, they have decided that they need to protect their soil, grow food for their people, plant trees, do what it takes, and they've got a lot of people employed. We
Well,
have
they got two big projects going. They got a hydro plant that they're building,
right,
500 kilowatts.
Yep.
It's not a big hydro plant.
but it's big for a country like this.
Yeah, and the other one makes a lot of sense. They've got rice husk to power.
Rice
biomass.
husk, biomass.
They grow a lot of rice. This rice husk stuff can't be eaten by animals,
Right.
so they're going to turn it into power.
Do you know how that's going to be done? Is that going to be done through a biodigester? Is it going to be burned or
Gasification.
gasification? Okay.
Gasification for power generation technology.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're ahead of the curve here.
Yeah, I don't know what gasification means in this case, because gasification can be done in a biodigester or it can be done in a torrefying facility, which means you toast it.
No, I'm not. It didn't go into that
Yeah.
detail there.
That's
I'm thinking it's probably the thermal process.
thermal processing.
They
where-
basically make charcoal out of it
yeah, and
and burn the gases.
Yep,
And
and-
then they've got soil enhancement to sell.
okay. Does the article say they have soil enhancement? Okay. All right. We
No,
should,
but it's a normal thing. If they're going to be toasting these rice husks,
They could take them to charcoal and then continue
They could burn-
letting a very
burn
small
charcoal.
amount of oxygen air into that thing,
Mm-hmm.
which would combine with the charcoal in an oxygen-starved environment to produce carbon monoxide, which, by
Which
the way,
burns.
can then burn.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feed that carbon monoxide into an internal combustion machine and run it, and which is
that's
how you.
what I'm thinking they're doing.
Yeah, that's how you can drive a car on cordwood.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking they're doing.
During the Second World War, there were about 600,000 cars in Europe that were running on cordwood.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them.
Yeah.
With these things sitting in their trunks or pulling behind by trailers.
Yeah, it looks like you got an ash can on your
Yeah,
back
exactly.
bumper or something. Okay, we're up to January 9th.
Well, we've mentioned Scotland already, so
Yep.
let's mention it again.
And-
Environmentalists hailed 2 new wind power records
Yep.
in Scotland.
And we have a picture here, which is
Yeah, let's get
not terribly
the
relevant, but it's
picture.
there. It is. Scotland set 2 wind power records at the end of December, according to figures from the World Wildlife Fund Scotland. The group said that for the first time, wind turbines generated enough power for all the nation's electricity needs for 4 straight days, on December 23rd through 26th. December 24th saw a record of 74,042 megawatt hours from wind.
That was 130% of Scotland's total energy use that year. And this is an unusual event because they had a windstorm.
Well, they had a windstorm, and it happened that this happened on a day when a lot of people were not at work.
Yeah,
So, you know,
Christmas holidays.
yeah, you've got that kind of combination going on. It becomes easier, but you know, they're still building wind turbines in Scotland. They're really just starting to put up solar panels in a place that's way farther north than Vermont is.
Well, they know that you don't have to pay for the costs of power when you got wind turbines and you got solar
Absolutely.
panels. And they're looking at the future.
That's right.
And this is interesting, and we've talked about this before, because Scotland has a lot of oil.
Yep. We have to press on, Tom. We don't have enough time for all the rest of the stuff we've got. This is from Telesur English.
China ramps up winter heating development with renewable energy.
This was an interesting article. With renewable energy plan by 2020, China expects to see a reduction in 120 million tons of coal for heating. China's newly released 13th five-year plan has provisions for renewable energy development, calling for promoting the use of geothermal heating, wind
That's
power,
interesting.
and solar energy for winter heating in the north of China. Now, I'm going to guess here, I don't know, that when they say geothermal, they're talking about geothermal heat pumps. But they might be talking about that.
The article says they're turning to geothermal water from hundreds of feet to over
Okay,
a mile
that's not
underground.
heat pumps. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, the situation in China has been really bad, partly because if you lived in the north of China, where they were worried about an invasion coming from Russia in the past, you could get free coal for heating your home.
Uh-huh.
And so they've got inefficient, smoky coal stoves all over the place, and they want people to get away from those.
They
Okay.
also had too much wind power. More than the local grid could handle.
Yeah, and
So
they want
were shutting
they want to
these-
use it.
Yeah, they want to use it locally.
Locally. Okay, our next item also has a picture. This is from the Maui News. Maui, of course, being the island of Maui in Hawaii.
Energy from renewable resources ticks up a bit. Now they're talking about Hawaii.
Yeah. Maui Electric Company produced 35.4% of its power from renewable energy in 2015, up slightly from the previous year. Wind farms provided 23.2%, solar share was 8.5%, biomass and bagasse produced 2.7% and 1% was biofuel. But Maui's renewable generation was behind that of the big island, the island of Hawaii, which stood at 48.7%.
But gas, by the way, is the residue from sugar cane.
Right,
It's what's left over after they squeeze the sugar.
right. Okay, we should continue going, however, Tom, because I wasn't kidding when I said we were behind. Our next item is from from your renewable news.
Solar farm developer dominating Texas utility market with over 50 massive projects.
This is really almost unbelievable.
It is really.
Innovative Solar Systems of Asheville, North Carolina is once again dominating the solar energy market by having the largest pipeline of projects in development in the Texas market. ISS representatives report that the company has over 50 utility-scale projects in development, and they range in size from 35 megawatts to over 200 megawatts.
So some of these are pretty big.
They're by Vermont standards, they're utterly gigantic. I mean, our historically I don't know what it is right now, but in the past, our largest utility scale solar farms were 2.2 megawatts, and we had a lot of those because of the way the law works. But 2.2 megawatts is
That's nothing.
barely over
Yeah.
1% of 200 megawatts. And these people, if you figure, if the average of these is 100 megawatts, which would put it well below, if the median size of these arrays is 100 megawatts, which would put it well below the average of these two figures, it would mean that they'd have 5 gigawatts of solar in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And even at 20%, means that one company has in the pipeline something that would be a pretty good sized nuclear reactor in Texas.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, this is very interesting. These investors are getting great returns on their investment.
yes, I know.
10% yearly, solid returns for 40 years.
Yeah, get that out of Treasury funds. And these are returns that are
They're guaranteed.
they're guaranteed in power purchase agreements. We are up to Tuesday, January 10th, and this is from Energy Matters.
U.S. renewables after 8 years of Obama.
Yeah.
Then and now.
After 8 years with Barack Obama in the
Let's get
White
this
House,
picture up there.
over 1 million U.S. rooftops have solar panels installed. Utility-scale solar powers more than 2 million homes. Generating low-carbon electricity employs 600,000 people in the United States, and 1.9 million Americans are employed in energy efficiency. And you know what? That's pretty big. That's pretty big compared to coal. It's pretty big compared to oil. And if you decide that you're going to, move toward coal and oil, you're moving away from jobs.
Well, some of the numbers here is back in 2008, the USA had 1.2 gigawatts of solar and 25 gigawatts of wind capacity installed.
Yep.
Today, 31 gigawatts of solar, 75 gigawatts of wind power. In 2008, there were no solar PV plants greater than 100 megawatts capacity. Now there are 50.
And that's plants. That's interesting because most solar plants in this, solar PV plants in this. No, wait a minute. Was that solar PV plants?
The word I got from the article was plants. I assume that means developments. I don't think that's making.
Okay. But if you look at the graph, you can see some pretty interesting developments here. LED lights have gone down 94% in 8 years in price.
The cost reduction.
And
That makes a lot of sense.
I went into Brown and Roberts
Yeah.
about a week ago
Yeah.
because my refrigerator light went out. And I'm
Yeah.
accustomed to thinking of a refrigerator light as one of the last holdouts of a reason to have an incandescent bulb.
Yeah.
And I walked in there and was told that I could get a utility LED.
Okay.
This is an LED that will work in your refrigerator or your oven.
In your oven too, huh? Wow.
They didn't say refrigerator LED. They said
Yeah.
They said appliance LED. I'm sorry, an appliance LED. So I'm assuming that you can put it in your oven, and it was like $1.19.
Well, that's subsidized.
Well, it is
It
subsidized.
is.
Yes,
But that's okay.
But don't tell anybody. That's okay.
What
Anyway,
else do we got in that? In that
price
graph
of
there?
land-based wind is down 41%. The price of distributed PV, which is what you put on your rooftop, is down 54%. Utility scale PV is down 64%, and modeled battery costs are down 73%. And I'm going to tell you, I think utility scale PVs will continue to decline,
Yeah.
but the battery costs are going to
go
drop
way
like
low.
a
Yep.
rock. Okay, got to get going. Here we go. Our next item is from the Times Herald Records.
Well,
We are
this
still
is
on January 10th.
continuing what we talked about before. Cuomo confirms Indian Point nuclear plant will close by 2021.
Yep. Governor Andrew Cuomo made it official, saying the 2,000 megawatt Indian Point nuclear power plant will close by April 2021. His office said the closure will have quote, little or no effect on New Yorkers' electricity bills, end quote. It indicated the plant can be replaced by 1,000 megawatts of hydropower because demand has declined. Now, the 1,000 megawatts of hydropower would be coming down from Canada through Lake Champlain in that connection that's going down the Hudson River. However, we've got more from Andrew Cuomo, and we will see that coming up again. So this story continues.
We're going to be talking about Andy again?
We are.
Uh-huh.
Last item, as I recall. Our next item, still
Moving
January
a little closer
10th,
to home.
is a little closer to home, just a little. BurlingtonFreePress.com had this.
Scott sticks with renewable energy goal.
Vermont's new Republican governor said Monday he would stick with his Democratic predecessor's long-term goal of getting 90% of the energy needed in the state from renewable sources by 2050. For several years, Vermont has been working towards some of the most aggressive renewable energy goals in the country. However, I want to point out, Governor Scott seems to think that we need to develop new technology in order to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
He's anti-wind.
He's anti-wind. I think it's boneheaded, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So, Governor Scott, I'm sorry. I called you boneheaded. I really did. But I can't apologize too deeply because I meant it.
Interesting thing about this article.
Yeah.
In the article, they had a picture
Yep.
of a timber frame solar
Yes,
panel.
I know.
Old technology, new technology.
Yeah,
It's like a
and-
parking space made out of wood
Yes.
with solar panels on
Yeah.
top.
Well, there you go. It
First
doesn't
of its kind in the state.
really.
And this company
It's in
that they had
Montpelier.
there, Sun Commons
Yes.
from Waterbury, is making these things.
Yes.
You know, they're available now. You can buy them.
You can buy them. Oh well. Okay. Our next item is from Wednesday, January 11th, and this is from the BBC.
VW set to pay $4.3 billion for emissions cheat.
VW has agreed to pay a draft $4.3 billion settlement with the U.S. authorities over emission rigging scandal. The German car makers also said it would plead guilty to breaking certain U.S. laws. VW said it has been in advanced discussions with authorities. The agreement has yet to be approved by VW's management and supervisory board. However, the man who is in charge of this in the United States has been charged with
That's right.
criminal
I
activity.
was just going to say that. I think he's in jail because they used the word remanded.
Okay.
And I think that means putting him in jail.
Well, I would expect him to be out on bail, to tell you
I
the
would
truth.
expect,
But you know,
and this, by the way, is just a fine. This has nothing to do with the settlements.
no. And the settlements went into something like 17.
Almost 20 billion.
Yeah, it was almost $20 billion. This is a big chunk of VW's worth.
Well, we talked about that. It's like a third of
Yeah.
their stock value.
Yep. It's
Okay, we got a nice picture here.
a picture, and this is from C News Renewables.
How'd you get that up there?
You left the other one up, and all I had to do was hit a button.
EIA expects about 15 gigawatts of new U.S. renewables in 2016.
All right.
Where's that picture? Well, that's in Idaho.
That's in Idaho. It's a wind farm in Idaho. I thought that was a nice picture.
It is a nice
The
picture.
Energy Information
Little snow on the
Administration, yep, expects 24 gigawatts of new utility-scale power generation capacity additions for 2016, with renewables accounting for 63% or 15 gigawatts. Nearly 60% of renewable plants are scheduled to come online in the fourth quarter, including roughly 8.5 gigawatts of wind and solar PVs. And I have to tell you, the Energy Information Administration has only in the last year or two started counting small PV setups in their calculations. And as a result of that, they've been missing a third, perhaps 40% of all.
They haven't had the whole picture.
No, they haven't had the whole picture. And another thing that I will say about the EIA, and we've mentioned this before, when they're looking at past numbers, you've got to take that lack of distributed solar, rooftop solar, home solar, even commercial rooftop solar, if it's below a megawatt or in some cases 5 megawatts.
They're not counting.
For some calculations for the EIA, they would say there is no solar power in Vermont at all. And even though we've got about 20 plants of 2.2 megawatts each. And the other thing is that when they make projections for the future, they are wrong 100% of the time. Not just slightly wrong, way off. And you can see this in this historic data. In fact, if you want to see that, if you want to see that, go to geoharvey.com, go back to the previous calendar, which is December, and click on December 12th, because that's the date where you'll see the graph. We had it on our show.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. Our next item is from SF Gate. And this is...
It's really from the Barry Montpelier Times Argus, as relayed to us from the San Francisco newspaper.
Yes, that's right. I put down the sources as I find them, and very often they come from somebody else.
Montpelier to vote on net zero options.
Now, this vote has already taken place, but I don't know what the results are, to tell you the truth. Residents of, because this was yesterday, and the voting, actually it isn't over.
Voting ends today.
It ends today. Today being
Thursday,
the 12th of January, and we haven't seen the results yet. Residents of Vermont's capital city still have time to vote on what they feel is the best way for their community to go to net zero. They'd already committed to net zero. This is how do we get there? There are 5 finalists for designs that would enable Montpelier to reduce its energy through the use of savings and increased use of renewable sources of power. Voting ends today.
So some of the things they're voting on is increased use of solar panels, a farmer's market building, I don't know what that really means, and increased green space downtown.
They've got a bunch of things going on.
So they're moving in the right direction.
They are. And when I said voting ends today, I want to point out that's voting ends on the day we're recording this show, which will not appear.
Necessarily be as you watch it.
It will not, guaranteed, because our show never appears on the day it's recorded. Sorry about that. Okay, now we are up to.
Nice picture coming
this is a
there.
pretty picture. This is also from C News Renewables.
I've saved this picture to use as a background on my computer.
Have you really?
Yeah.
It's a lovely
It's a
picture.
great picture.
You know what that picture reminds me of? And you might see this in it when you look at it. It reminds me of the Orion Nebula.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. It does remind me of the Orion Nebula, though.
Okay. New York governor proposes 2.4 gigawatts offshore wind commitment by 2030.
Now, you see, this is...
We've mentioned this before, and he's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, this is something that tells you a little bit about where the power from the nuclear reactor is going to be coming from. Now,
At
this
least
is
some of it.
At least some of it. This is not short term, but it is in the long term. We're going to be seeing power coming from offshore wind.
It's about time.
Yeah, at the 2017 State of the State address, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo proposed a commitment to develop up to 2.4 gigawatts of offshore wind power in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, I want to point out that also means he hasn't said anything about Long Island Sound here.
One of these proposals is in,
Is it?
in
Okay.
Long Island Sound. He's got two projects that he's specifically moving, and one of them we've talked about. It's right near 30 miles offshore Montauk Point.
Okay.
Toward Block Island.
So is that in
That's
Long
the Long
Island
Island
Sound?
Sound, yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of north of Long
Well,
Island, but you're talking about
it's-
east of it.
It's
That's
east
okay.
of it, yeah. And the other one is definitely in the ocean.
Yep.
It's down off Rockaway in New York City.
Right.
It's south of Brooklyn, if you will.
Yeah, he said that, let's see, these are 2.4 gigawatts of offshore wind power in the Atlantic Ocean by 2030. He said this will prove critical to achieving the goal of meeting 50% of New York's electric needs from renewable sources by 2030.
Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg because there's a lot of continental shelf out there.
There is.
Just waiting to be developed.
And you could even go
And New
beyond.
Jersey is right south
Yeah.
of the southernmost one of these.
Right.
So they're going to start.
They're going to start. North Carolina is going to start.
Pennsylvania,
Maryland,
Delaware.
Delaware is going to
It's there.
start.
The
It's all-
ocean shelf is there.
Yeah, and the fact that the ocean shelf is there is important, but not critical, because the wind industry is developing an ability to put up wind turbines, big wind turbines
That float. Yeah.
And they're doing that so they can put wind turbines in places like the U.S. West Coast.
Well, Japan's big on that.
Japan is big. They don't have a continental shelf off their east
Yeah,
coast.
and they're building these things in a shipyard.
Yeah.
And floating them out to sea.
That's right. And you know that the fact that you can do this means that you can have wind power actually
I'm going to put this picture back
anywhere.
up. I like it.
I think that's a lovely picture, you know, and it as I said, it reminds me of the Orion Nebula. I've known about the Orion Nebula since I was a tyke.
Uh-huh.
I was always interested in astronomy,
Okay.
and
I know about Orion's belt, but I don't know much
well,
more.
if you do a Google search on the Orion Nebula, you'll see pictures of it.
I'm sure.
In a telescope, it's one of those things in a telescope which is difficult to look at because it is so big. And you know, I have an 11-inch catadioptic telescope, and
Well, I don't know what catadioptic.
it means it's a reflector.
Yeah.
But it's a very short tube.
Okay.
Okay, and it's an 11-inch telescope, and looking at the Orion Nebula is not as fulfilling as it might be. Looking at the moon, definitely not as fulfilling unless you're looking for a particular crater.
Can you see the little guys moving around up there? or
You
what?
can see mice running all over that cheese. The problem with the moon is that at the lowest power that this particular telescope delivers, you cannot see the whole thing because it's too big in the screen.
Okay.
Okay, but if you're looking at the Orion Nebula, you have the same problem. But on the other hand, if you're looking at something like the Ring Nebula, ooh, what a picture!
I bet.
It looks like it's a little ghostly ring. It's very clear, very evident. You know exactly what it is. And of course, the computer in the thing, you just tell it where it'll point at, and if the Ring Nebula is available, it'll just point there. And if there's a cloud in the way, it won't know. But you know, and it'll tell you if the thing's below the horizon. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I think we've run out.
Don't use it much in
I think
Brattleboro.
this was the last item.
That was the last item. Let's put up this next picture. There we go. You can click on that. Have a lovely week. Maybe you should get back to us so we can wave goodbye. Goodbye from me and Tom. Have a
nice week.
Beautiful week, and we hope to see you next time, or we hope you see us. It's kind of hard to see you.
We spin and we toil, we work all day, Sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die. We dig and drill and waste what we find, break up the earth, leaving little behind, but we will grow lilies in the by and by. I want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world, and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.